Welcome to this week's episode of the Last Night's Game podcast. I'm your host, Amy Butchon-Siegfried, and today we are talking about my favorite subject, athlete moms. And here to join me talking all about these amazing women who wear so many hats every single day is my co-founder and my favorite brother in the world, Scott. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. We're celebrating moms ahead of Mother's Day, obviously. And without mothers, none of us would be here. So this is a very important podcast to have. And shout out to our mother, who we would not be here without.
That's right. The best of the best. We learn
Yes.
from the best, and the bar is set very high.
It is. It is. And I know you continue to raise that bar every day as a mother.
The mom fails that happen in this house. I am public enemy number one in this house most of the time. So I appreciate you saying that.
I mean, if you're public enemy, that means you're probably doing the right things then, correct?
Possibly.
Do you have any maybe fun examples that for our listeners that makes you such a horrible person?
I am a horrible person. Well, just right before this, I'm doing what you probably have never had to do, but like a meal train, which when people have babies or they're sick, you drop food off at their house and you sign up for a time.
Mhm.
And I was making cookies. Now, mind you, I don't actually make cookies. I take them out of the freezer and put the little things on the cookie tray and put it in the oven. I burnt them.
Well, you still have to cook. You still have to cook them, so that's still making them.
My timer went off, and I was knee deep in doing research for the podcast, and I didn't get up and get them out. And now they're hard as a rock. So maybe the squirrels will like them later. So maybe I'm not the worst squirrel mom. The squirrels will like them.
It's all relative. You're a good squirrel mom now.
Yeah, there are definitely days where I think the other day I asked the tiny human to pick up something, like clean up a little bit. And I was like, it's the end of the day, let's just tidy up a tiny bit. And he was like, you are the worst. Oh, no, I know what my biggest mom fail was.
Oh, there we go.
He, I don't remember what he did. He was being a brat. And I was like, okay, if you do that
I find that
again,
hard to believe.
I know it's tough, right? That's what 6-year-olds do. And I was like, if you do that again, you're going to have to clean all the toilets in the house. So he does it again. And I'm like, all right, let's go get the scrub brush from underneath to go scrub the toilets. We're going to get a bucket. I'll be in charge of this. I'll spray the cleaner because I don't want you to spray yourself in the eye because I will be the worst mother of the world. He's like, I'm not doing this. This is child abuse. I was like, somebody's got to clean the toilets and you're not listening. So it might as well be you. So we went around and scrubbed and he brushed the toilets. I didn't make him use his toothbrush, which I was going to threaten to do, or his hands in the toilet. He just had a scrub brush. And yes, so it took a whole whopping 10 minutes. And he was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I'm like, see, it's not child abuse. My Lord.
Is he now obsessed with cleaning toilets, though?
No, not at all.
Well, okay.
Not at all. That would be nice if that was a new hobby he picked up.
He could then come over to my house and do that if you'd like.
Okay. Well, when Uncle Day is coming up, we'll make sure he goes over to your house to clean toilets.
Toilet day. Uncle's toilet day.
Toilet days. Okay.
Very exciting, yes.
Well, so that being said, these women that we're going to talk about today probably have had their kids clean their toilets or something of the like, are probably public enemy number one sometimes, and probably carry a fair share of mom guilt because that's just kind of what happens. And that's something just to think about when you're talking about these women who, sure, they have to travel for work, right? They're gone a lot. And I know there's a lot of moms out there that make it all work and travel for work, but they're also training. So their training days are probably just as intense as their travel days, and come home beat up, bruised, tired, exhausted. And it's great when they're little because we watch Maria Taylor, who did the Olympics on NBC. She brought her baby with her. But when they get bigger and they get in school, you can't do that.
You cannot. And a lot of places have regulations against bringing children with you at certain points. So sometimes not even an option. Yeah. Or you go to the Olympics. I think Alex Morgan had to leave her kid at home when they went to the most recent Olympics because it wasn't allowed to have that many people in a traveling party.
Yeah, it was. Well, that was a big thing in COVID. Remember, you had a traveling party that went into the bubble with you.
Yes.
And you might not be able to bring that's a traveling party too, I guess, when it comes to even college sports too, right? There's a set number that you can bring, and you have to give up a coach in order to bring your baby. There's no leeway in that kind of stuff, which I think is so interesting to say. This infant who does nothing, literally does nothing, and it's my job to keep them alive. I have to get rid of a coach to bring the baby. Silly.
Yeah, unless you've got some phenom infant baby who can draw out of bounds plays or something. Could be a secret weapon, but I don't think that exists quite yet.
We gotta work on that. Call boss baby, we gotta figure this out. Uh, it's really interesting. I mean, it's something that from behind but you don't notice you would never know unless you're really behind the scenes and what's happening is
Hmm.
there are decisions made every day on strategic decisions made every day on who shows up where, and what a challenge that is for moms. Is it the Tennessee women's basketball coach who came back, like, a week after having a baby?
This season, yes.
Mhm. And so you look at some of that and having had a child, like, a week? Like,
Hmm.
I was felt like I was in the twilight zone for a good 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, granted, still did this kinda stuff, but, like, to go out and put real pants on and stand on a and coach
Stand up and be on
no,
national television and tell other
no,
people what to do. No.
no, I don't wanna do that. And so it's just so interesting to see what challenges they face. So let's talk about some of these ladies. We really had a conversation before we hopped on. There is a baby boom happening in soccer. Women's soccer, there are a lot of babies. Now, granted, the women's soccer players that there were really we have a lot of young soccer players.
Hmm.
So, especially on the US women's national team, so that makes a lot of sense. But the biggest name I think for me that popped out was Sophia Smith and how she announced that her pregnancy on March 5th of this year. And her husband Michael is an NFL wide receiver for the Cardinals. They're expecting their first child.
And she was one of the triple espresso, the trio that became world famous over this last summer in the Olympics. So I think they're trying to time it perfect. We spoke about previously to this that we're kind of in the middle of the World Cup, the Olympics. This would kind of be the time to do it if you know that you're Sophia Smith and you're an incredible soccer player and your spot's guaranteed and you're going to get paid by the NWSL, who has a pretty good maternity policy. So if you're going to do it, this is the time.
Yeah.
Although it won't be easy, but
No.
it's certainly the best time to do it. And we've had a lot of soccer players that have done that.
Yeah. Well, we were saying what's really interesting, I mean, 2 schools of thoughts. One is, her husband plays in the NFL, and
Mhm.
so you're having to time 2 seasons that are different.
Yes.
So, obviously, hers is most important, but also you're timing this between, like we said, between the Women's World Cup, which is in 2027, and then the next Summer Olympics are in
Hmm.
2028 in LA. And so, I mean, that's one of the holdups. You hear Simone Biles talk about that a lot. Like, do I come back? She physically probably could,
Yes.
but that's not what she really wants a family. And so you look at this push and pull that these female athletes have to deal with of they really have to put a hold or stop their career or end it in Simone Biles' case because she's not going to come back 4 years after 2028. And
Very
so it's
unlikely. Yeah.
very unlikely, right? And so it's really incredible to think about the perspective of really the planning, but also just the thought process and really like this is a game, and not just for like the actual showing, like childcare, like, that's a whole 'nother can of worms.
It is. And I mean, a good thing is that mothers, athlete mothers prior to Sophia and others that are pregnant now, had to trailblaze and go through so much to get to the point where now we do have these good policies in place that they can feel comfortable taking time to, give birth and raise a child. Because it wasn't that long ago that that was not the case for a lot of athletes.
No, and I was looking through our notes previously, and
Hmm.
Allyson Felix kept coming up in my mind,
Yes.
the Olympian, the most decorated US Olympian, I believe, especially on track, but maybe not ever because that would probably be Michael Phelps, but
Most likely Michael, but
on track for
for track,
sure.
men or women, yeah.
So her story, if you're not familiar with it, and
Hmm.
I might leave some parts out, but essentially she had to have an emergency. She was sponsored by Nike. She had to
Hmm.
have an emergency C-section with her daughter. And you'll see pictures of her with her medals and her uniform on, but you can see her giant C-section scar in
Yes.
it. And she had to have an emergency C-section for, I believe it was for her health.
Hmm.
And Nike didn't have a maternity policy. Nike was going to reduce her pay, all these different things. And that's how she makes her money. And so she took Nike on and basically said, "Screw you guys. This is completely ridiculous. This is not fair." And she ditched Nike. I think I believe she sued Nike, if I remember correctly. Beat
Yes.
Nike. They now have a maternity policy, but she left and went to Athleta.
Didn't she create Athleta? If I'm not, she created her own company. I know that for sure.
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know that she created Athleta. It's owned by Gap, so maybe she did
Okay.
and then sold it to Gap. I don't know. That's a very good question. But she really like her standing up and her taking that stand. made companies think
Especially
that
Nike. That's one of the biggest companies in the world, and one a track athlete who, unlike a basketball player or soccer player, don't have guaranteed contracts. They
Mhm,
only get paid when they run. So that's
mhm,
was Nike's policy, and why do they care at that point, right?
right,
We'll
but
pay
you have
somebody else. But she had the fortitude to stand up to them and take on like one of the biggest companies in the world.
and how
Basically,
that's
shamed them publicly.
yeah, and how people actually listened,
Hmm.
and you think that was gosh, that was probably
4 or 5 years ago
I was
at
gonna say
this
I was
point.
gonna say more than that, I was gonna say 10, but yeah,
No,
somewhere in
not
there,
even.
8, 9
Yeah,
years ago, and where we are now, like, she I'd say she walks, everyone else could run, but, like, she ran, then we went faster.
yeah,
But still, you're looking at, like you said, WNBA in 2020, they had a monumental collective bargaining agreement that included, maternity leave, of
full y-
childcare.
full year of pay too.
Yeah, and so you're looking at that, the NWSL has a great progressive policy, and then we were talking about soccer, and then, over at Manchester United, footballers, so that's over in Europe, and the policies they put into place now, obviously, Europe is definitely a much more progressive when it comes to those kinds of things,
Hmm.
but it's great to see that FIFA has some new maternity regulations that started in 2024.
So it's, I mean, think about how long women have been playing soccer for this just to happen is it's troubling, right? But also it's good that it's finally happening, and it seems like something that would have been done a long time ago, and not in this modern era.
Yeah. And, we were kind of talking through this list of incredible athletes that we have in front of us. And, I was looking at Naomi Osaka, who took time off to have her child. But like we look at Serena Williams. She won the last Grand Slam she won, the Australian Open. She was pregnant. Her daughter's name is Olympia. I mean, it's one of those where Olympia has gone everywhere. And so you look at how the model is just so different for a female athlete, right? Your child just comes with you until they can't. I mean, it's a very common, obviously. And so it's
Yeah,
really interesting to look at how that just looks so different than the men's game and how that maybe is an inspiration to them, but also just an extra barrier, an extra weight to carry because if everyone's with you, you can't decompress. You can't not be present. Like you have to be around. And so that's just one more thing that you have to do that, your counterparts may not have to.
took someone like Serena Williams to get pregnant and force them to look at these policies before they didn't really care, to be honest with
Absolutely.
you. And so
Yeah.
it takes the best player in probably history, right, to get pregnant and have to force them to reevaluate things. And they actually just had an update in March for the WTA. So now they can get up to 12 months of paid paternity leave for women's tennis players. So there's quite a lot of benefits coming their way as well. And if they don't play, they don't make money, right?
Right, it's the same thing, they're not earning prize money unless you have a sponsor who is also going to support you while you're not playing, and so it's a fascinating model from a marketing standpoint, it's a fascinating model from just overall, you've got these players, like, think tennis and golf, like, you have to be playing in order to stay up on your world ranking,
Yes.
and which qualifies you for so many different things. And if you're not qualified, you can, you might be able to make a special selection or like the masters where you can ask people you're invited. But it's just really fascinating to think about how that has shifted the whole model and how we're really figuring that out. And you have an incredibly long list of WNBA players, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, Brianna Stewart, who all have kiddos. I mean, Brianna Stewart has,
Yes.
I think, 2 under the age of 3, if I remember correctly. And once again, loading up and everybody's going to the Olympics. And I remember when she won the NBA or WNBA finals, she had her kids out there on the court with her. And like it was just, and she said that was just like such an incredible moment. And I can't even talk about it without like tearing up.
And we've come so far, right? Like Candace Parker had to hide her pregnancy. I think she won an NBA, or was she rookie of the year and then won a gold medal in the early stages of pregnancy and didn't tell anyone. Like,
Hmm.
we've come very far. Skylar Diggins Smith, I think she played a full season
Hmm.
pregnant.
Right.
All star, didn't tell anyone for fear of getting cut or, getting released from the team. So now we have players that are openly able to have pregnancies, have kids, and be fine.
Yeah, and still be able to maintain their career and still play at a phenomenal level of a career too. And so that's an incredible thing to look at as well, is how that all happens. One athlete I want to touch on is Kenyan runner Faith Kipyegon, I believe is how you say her last name. She's come to light just recently. She's working toward a goal of being the first woman to have a sub 4-minute mile. That means she is running the mile in under 4 minutes, which is absolutely freaking incredible. And there's a big campaign going on right now with her and Nike. She's running in Paris on June 26th because a couple of reasons. That's where she's had 2 of her best times, and it's apparently the terrain is right, the
Hmm.
rubber, the track is right, all these different things. And once again, mom out there kicking ass.
Hmm.
Sub 4-minute mile. I don't care if you kids, no kids, whatever. That is obscene. Like, that is so fast.
No
And here
kids.
she is.
Yes, and I think her child's like around 6, I think, at this
Okay.
point. But still, even with child without child, sub 4-minute mile is quite crazy. And to have Nike to get behind her, I think it's called Breaking Four, is the doc that they're going to put out. So it's pretty amazing. June 26th, you said, in Paris.
Yes. June 26th in Paris. So watch for Faith to hopefully break that record. I mean, I think that would be so cool to see that I can't remember the stat. We were talking about it earlier. She shaved off 8 seconds, I believe, off of her mile. And it's taken previous women 30, it was like, I think it was like 30 years to shave that much time off the world record. It was the world record, I'm sorry, the world record that
Yeah.
she shaved 8 seconds off of. She did that in 2 years, where it's previously taken women runners 30 years before that. So the technology, I mean, I'm sure the technology and all the things, Nike's really got that going for her, and it's just really cool to see.
And she'll have her child there to witness history, hopefully, along with the rest of the world.
Yeah. But you know what? I read somewhere that kids learn their exercise habits from their moms.
So,
And for me, that was like a big motivator, right?
mhm.
So when I'm upstairs panting like an idiot trying to survive my run, I've got this little tiny human here who's going, "Go, mama, go." So funny story. Last week we were talking about, for those of you who don't know, Scott has signed up to do a half marathon, and so I was
Very
like,
few
"Oh,
people know this.
yeah, well, guess what? If you're breaking news, you hear it now." And he's killing it on his training, and I'm very, very proud of him. And he's inspired me to start running again. And so the other day I said, "Hey, tiny human, like when you get to first grade, you can do track. Would you be interested?" And he's like, "Well, what's
Hmm.
track?" I was like, "Oh, well, it's running. It's usually running, like you start with running a mile and this and that." And he was like, "Okay, like you run and like dad runs?" I said, "Yeah." I
Hmm.
said, "Okay, let's go run now." And like he started running laps around the cul-de-sac. And it was just cool to see because he hears us talking about it, and, like, you
Hmm.
just think about the impact that these women are having on not only their children, but other children, and then their children. It's a ripple effect, right? And so you look at how, they can see what's achievable now and what's something that they might be able to accomplish that, I never saw as a kid, so it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and for kids that have a tough time like focusing, like running is what I've learned is one of the best things they can do, because you can run a 100-meter dash in 10 seconds and you're done. Or depending on how little focus you have, if you can run a couple miles, that keeps your brain stimulated.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's really
look at
interesting.
you. Look at you.
Hey, you know what? We're all just trying to do the best we can.
Yes.
And and I think that's the thing that, I wanna wrap this with is, if you're listening and you are a mom, you're not a mom, whatever. You're a dad, a single dad who has kiddos at home, like, everybody's doing their best, and I think the best
Hmm.
thing that we can do is provide support, but also be a champion of each other. I don't care if you work, if you don't work, whatever that is. Maybe your talent's making amazing cupcakes and I'm pulling my cookies out of the freezer. Like, it just is what it is. That's
Hmm.
just part of who we are. And I think that's one thing that you probably does it, but as women, like women tend to be a little bit more catty. Like, back off, support everybody for what they're doing, be great
Yes.
at what you do. And that's what you're seeing with these women, right? They're being great at what they do. And they're not giving excuses. They're not doing those things. They're working even harder.
Hmm.
And so kudos to them. And I love all the things happening in women's sports. So it's incredible to see as the WNBA season is starting along, and we've got a great season ahead of us. Tennis, all the other things that we're keeping an eye on, and of course, soccer season in the midst of NWSL, and of course, 2027 World Cup and the Olympics.
Yes.
Tune in for all the things, but thank you to those of you who are moms, those of you who raise little ones, whether you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a grandma, you're an aunt and uncle, whatever that might be, whoever you might be, you're important to someone. So thank you for being you. Appreciate you for listening.
Thank you, moms.